lot of the frequently asked questions based on what other school districts have done, reports that they've put together. And we try to address some of those questions. There's a frequently asked question form. If you maybe see a question on there that, you know, something that you want to find out a little bit more about, or a question that's not on there, be glad to take a little bit of time to walk through that with you. So what kind of questions do you guys have?
As far as the follow-up meeting, so we're starting this pilot now. Are we going to have a follow-up meeting in another couple months to review the surveys? And are the surveys going out to everybody, or is it only going out to the parents that are participating?
I don't know if we've talked about all the logistics of that at the building levels yet, but I would assume we would do another meeting, another parent meeting, and include the surveys as well. Dr. Littlefield, does that sound?
So I was making some.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm sneaking up behind you. Yeah, I mean, the idea would be, we're talking mid-year. I think the surveys, honestly, would be completed by parents who had participated, and they're giving us their feedback, youngsters who had been part of the program, and teachers who had been part of the program, who had had experience with it. And the follow-up to this, will it be at mid-year for that group of pilot parents? If we get encouraging feedback on the survey, would it be a much larger forum where we'd want all parents, including those that might be exposed to it, if there's a full rollout? I don't know yet. But I think one of the things that we've talked about is we've never entered into quite as intimate a partnership with parents as we're entering into right now.
A lot of trust.
I'm sorry?
A lot of trust.
Yeah, both sides.
Right.
One of our core values in the school district is parents are our partners. And it's more than baking brownies for the PTA. It's making decisions that impact your child's learning. So we're opening up those gates and say, you know, we're partners in this. So we understand the need to keep those lines of communication moving. Going. We're on step one. We're trying to roll this out in a very deliberate way in which you as a parent are going to call the shots.
That's why I think the follow-up meetings are extremely important.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be a question. It can be a suggestion, and it's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we had, I think you were.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I apologize.
We snuck up behind you.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you guys have thought about this for quite a while, and you have some ideas of what milestones or metrics that you're going to use to denote what's acceptable success. You know, what denotes a success story.
Yeah.
What, you know, and then with everything, you know, there's percentages. And what have you broken that down and put some numbers or some ideas to that?
I don't think we've gotten that granular with it yet as far as like the percentages. I think the difficult part is that it looks different for every student. We talk a lot about, you know, having an individual learning plan for every student. And the reality is that what's successful for one student is, you know, different for another student. And so I think those are going to be lots of conversations with teachers, with parents, with the student, to find out, you know, how is this working? Is this working? I think it's hard to have something that we can accurately gauge across the board. Sort of a one-size-fits-all would be difficult in an initiative like this because learning styles are so different. We're really moving away from, you know, everyone in the classroom learning the same thing, and we're getting into each student is learning at their own pace and what they need to learn and that individual learning plan idea. We have a ways to go, but that's what we're working towards. So I think it's hard to, you know, what's that barometer to check? It's hard to have one over the whole thing, you know. But I think we're going to have different checkpoints as we go. Some of those aren't developed yet.
What I was getting to was, like, you know, at some level I don't even want to use this word, is there some testing? I hate that word.
Yeah.
Because how do you test the waters for so many different levels of involvement? But is there some, you ask professionals in the business, is that device useful to you? and I go through that on a daily basis with my company.
Absolutely.
Is that, you know, obviously laptops are essential to doing business in almost every industry and every job these days. But, and so to hand it to a child and say, is that helpful? Yeah, of course, they're going to say
Yeah.
yes. You know?
Right.
But at what level?
Yeah.
How do you grade that? Or how do you ascertain what level of helpfulness did that provide? You know, that's
Yeah.
the, was it helpful or distract?
Yeah.
That
And
tool or toy?
Yeah,
That's what it comes down
that's a
to.
good, and I think that that's a good question because it can be used for either a tool or a toy. And, you know, one thing is, it's us working closely with the teachers and figuring out, you know, as they're integrating that in the classroom, I think it looks a little bit different. There might be a classroom where all the students are, you know, using devices and they're in groups working, but there might be some where a student organizationally uses that tool because it has a calendar. They can put their, I received a phone call last week and spoke to a parent about the organizational piece. They said, you know, we're all about this because it's going to help my son be more organized. And for them, it was about the organizational piece. For another parent, it might be about something different. It might be that they can't keep, I can't keep papers. I'm the one, and people make jokes about it all the time, but I was that kid. If I had a paper, I would lose it. The day I got a laptop and I could keep things digitally, it really changed the way that I did business.
Make notes to yourself
So-
while you're listening to someone talk.
Right, and you can take
I
notes
just
and
did-
voice
I
recording.
Just a couple of things
That's-
on that, and some parents have told us already, we're not rolling it out till October, they're already telling us, my kid's gonna bring a digital device, and that's gonna be his assignment book.
Right,
Because he needs that kind of organization.
right.
And our response to that is, if that's your decision,
Yeah.
we're gonna support it. If I say, no way, my kid's bringing a pad of paper and writing the assignment in that pad of paper, and we say, good, that's your decision, we support it.
Right.
But the real point I wanted to make there, Matt, is we don't want to mislead people on data collection, because one of the things your slide says is we're going to give a survey to students, parents, and teachers.
Right.
We know that you wouldn't ask the same question of a parent that you'd ask of a youngster. So rather than saying to a youngster, did you like being able to bring your iTouch? We might ask youngsters to describe some of the activities that they've engaged in school with their own personal device. So it will be different data points that we're collecting from those three different populations. And, you know, I guess at the end of the day, the data thing, was it effective? Was learning enhanced? Are questions we're really going to want to explore with our teachers. Do you see a different youngster in front of you, or group of youngsters, now than you saw before? But it's also an individual judgment, because not every parent is going to be comfortable. You know, I have 7 kids. Some of my kids, if we had this opportunity where they go to school, would bring their digital devices to school. Some of my kids, out of the 7, knowing them like I know them, would not. But I really feel good about the fact that I get to make that choice, and somebody's not telling me, and what I have to say about my kids' education, the school cares about what I think. This is more than just bringing a digital device to school. It's reaching out to the parent community and saying, you know, we're doing this together.
Matt, if I could add something into the
Yeah.
whole measurement discussion, and just thinking about it, part of the way that I see us measuring its value is, as Dr. Littlefield and Matt were saying, you know, through our surveys, through the student surveys and collecting that data, through the teacher surveys and also the parent surveys, because we're going to get a chance to see some real opinions, some real ideas about, does this work? And the rest of the data points, you know, did this improve test scores for this? Did this improve test scores for that? That's going to be not as easy to pick up. However, as Dr. Littlefield's saying, it's really designed so that you're matching the needs of the child with their learning styles, and then what their family values might be in regards to technology, and basically giving choice as to what works best for your child and what works best in those learning situations. So I think it's going to be interesting to collect that data as we move forward with our surveys, with forums like this that we'll, I'm sure, have as the year moves forward.
Yeah. We'll go here, and then we'll try to get everyone, yeah, sure.
First of all, I want to say that I have a lot of reservations about this idea. I'm in IT. I write programs and I'm a project manager. I've been around here for a long time. I think it's especially concerning around second graders.
Having a hard time hearing back here.
Sorry. I have a lot of concerns, especially around this being deployed to the second graders, especially if this is a pilot program, and I've done a few pilot programs myself. Generally, if you do that, you do it to a very small audience, and with second, fifth, and sixth graders, you're talking about a pretty large audience.
Yeah, on 3 separate schools.
I understand.
That we're at.
I understand. I have a lot of questions. I was just speaking to the cameraman before this meeting started about devices, and it was just an interesting study in the room before this meeting started. The people with devices were buried in the devices, and the people that didn't have devices were talking to each other, generally speaking. As a second grader, that social interaction, that base of human interaction that we take for granted because we grew up, without those devices to get started, and then we eventually evolved into using these devices. If you introduce that to a second grader, you're taking away that human interaction time that a lot of us got as kids before we were introduced to all the electronics. I'm worried about that, how you're going to manage that, and make sure that kids have enough social time. I'm worried about the content that perhaps they'll have access to. I know you're going to run a reserved network, and there's net nanny and everything else out there to protect against certain types of content. But what will and will not be appropriate? You're going to, whether the parent makes a decision or not, you're going to have the, why does Susie or Johnny have an iPad and I don't? I don't know how you're going to manage that situation. You're going to have kids that are upset because they feel left out.
Actually, that was a question I would have too.
Underprivileged compared to the other kids. Yeah, I mean, even if they have access during specific coursework to an iPad that was recently bought, and I like those.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I've been around technology for a long time.
Yeah.
When it's not in the classroom, Johnny or Susie is going to be out on the playground with their device, with the other kids, around that device. How does it make those other kids feel? You have to deal with those type. I'm concerned that not a lot or not enough thought has been put into this, and I did go on your site. I did research it, before coming here tonight, and I don't see specific targeted curricula for these devices outlined. And that should be the case. I've taught a lot of classes. I've taught a lot of seminars. If you're going to use a device, you should have a specific set of curricular or hands-on courses defined. And the other thing I'm really concerned about is how it's going to impact classroom time. Because I've rolled out and tried to support multiple devices. Anyone here support a corporate network?
It's becoming that.
Yeah, and you do. If you bring your own device and Johnny or Susie has a device, it's an iPad and it won't run Flash, or if you got a netbook and it's got a virus on it, or Johnny's got a Droid and it has having trouble connecting to the wireless network. How much time in the classroom is going to be spent by the teacher trying to troubleshoot the device, the non-standard, you have no idea what's on it, and what they're going to use to access the device that's going to distract from class time, especially with formative materials, when they could be pulling that device out at any time during class. I have a lot of questions.